This episode of Harvey Brownstone Interviews is brought to you by the Harvey Brownstone Talk Show Blend Coffee, available at hollywoodblends.com. Everyone's saying it's the best coffee they've ever tasted. Why not give it a try and see for yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today's special guest is a multi-award winning and beloved superstar actress, comedienne, writer, and producer whose brilliant and unforgettable performance in the 2009 movie Precious earned her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, as well as over 30 other major prestigious acting awards, including a Golden Globe, a BAFTA Film Award, a Screen Actors Guild Award, the Film Critics Awards from Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago, the Independent Spirit Award, and the Sundance Film Festival's Special Jury Prize, to name only a few. Our guest has also appeared in many other great movies, including Hair Show, Shadowboxer, Domino, Fat Girls, Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins, Blackbird, Interwoven, Almost Christmas, The Reading, The Deliverance, and many more. On TV, she co-starred with Queen Latifah in the highly acclaimed TV movie Bessie, for which she received an Emmy Award nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actress for her compelling and nuanced portrayal of the legendary blues singer Ma Rainey. She also co-starred with Danny Glover and Whoopi Goldberg in the terrific TV movie Good Fences. And of course, we all remember her as the boisterous, confident, lovable single mother, Nique Parker, in the highly acclaimed, multi-award winning sitcom The Parkers, which ran for 5 seasons. And for 3 years, she hosted a highly entertaining reality show called Monique's Fat Chance, which won a Women's Image Network Award in 2006 for Outstanding Reality Series. She hosted the first season of the VH1 reality show Charm School. She hosted her own radio show, Monique in the Afternoon. And for 2 years, she hosted her own late night talk show, The Monique Show, which won an NAACP Image Award in 2010 for Outstanding Talk Series. And over the years, she's hosted dozens of episodes of the iconic variety TV show Showtime at the Apollo. She's also starred in many highly acclaimed TV specials, including One Night Stand, I Could Have Been Your Cellmate, Monique's Fat Chance, The Road to Paris, Monique and Friends Live from Atlanta, and My Name is Monique. She's performed her comedy act on the biggest stages in the world. She's had a residency in Las Vegas, and in 2001, she was nominated for a Grammy Award for her album, The Queens of Comedy. She's also a best-selling author of 3 books, Skinny Women Are Evil, Notes of a Big Girl in a Small-Minded World, Skinny Cooks Can't Be Trusted, and Beacon Hills High, a novel. She's won 5 NAACP Image Awards, a Women's Image Network Award, and 3 awards granted by the Alliance of Women Film Journalists. And in 2010, she received the Gold Derby Award for Best Supporting Actress of the Decade. I'm delighted and honored to welcome the mega-talented one and only Monique to our show. Monique, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Harvey.
Monique, when you hear that summary of your career that I just read out, what goes through your mind?
Who is he talking about? You know, it makes me smile. It makes me proud. I'm only 57 years old, Harvey. So, you know, it makes me say to all the little girls out there, dreams do come true, baby.
When you were a little girl,
yes,
you wanted to be famous and to be loved by the public. Who were the big stars that you looked up to growing up in Baltimore?
The biggest star, I think people may know her. It's this lady named Oprah Winfrey. I think y'all might know her. But, you know, Oprah Winfrey was on a local talk show called People Are Talking, right? And Harvey, when I saw this big Black woman, I saw me. Like, that was the first time that I could grab hold of something and said, I identify with that. So coming up as that little girl, to be a talk show host was my dream, to have a show called The Monique Show. So when I would see People Are Talking, and then she went on to get the Oprah Winfrey Show, it was like, this is possible. So the first night they called my name to come out on The Monique Show, Harvey, it was a little girl. It was a little girl walking in her dream.
And we all love to see you reach that dream. Now, before you were a movie star and a TV star, you were a stand-up comic, which I know you started doing on a dare from your brother. And you were known for telling it like it is with no filter. And I'm sure you know that people of every race, every background can relate to your comedy. What would you say drives your sense of humor, Monique?
You know what? I come from very direct people. And they didn't think, coming up as a little girl, cussing was like a second language. And they didn't think anything was wrong with that in front of children. So I was like, oh my God, I can't wait till I can grow up and I can sing like that. Right. So, you know, I think coming from a family that there was no filter. And I don't want to say they didn't care about your feelings, but there was just no filter. And if it was the truth, it was like your feelings didn't matter. Go ahead, because is it the truth? So that's how I came up.
And that's how we resonated with it. Now, you did something that very few people have ever been able to do, Monique. You were in Los Angeles only 3 months when you landed a starring role in your very own hugely successful sitcom, The Parkers, without even having to audition because they wanted you that much. Monique, was that the moment when you realized that you had arrived as a star in Hollywood?
Mm. Do you know, Harvey, the day I quit my job at MCI, the day that I said, I'm going to either sink or swim, that's the day in my mind that I arrived. I would always say, I'm a star. The people just hasn't caught up to me yet. So, you know, getting that show, it was everything I thought it would be. Everything. However, packing that U-Haul truck and only having the change in the, you know, the jugs you get, you fill them up with change, only having that to go out to LA with a family. That's when I said, damn it, I made it. We have made it. No, we don't have food for next week, but this week we have made it.
And boy, did you ever. Well, in 2005, you co starred in Shadow Boxer, which was directed by Lee Daniels, and the name of your character was Precious. Is there any significance that a few years later he cast you in a movie where you played the mother of a character named Precious?
No, just those were just the names. That was all.
Well, I don't know how much you know about me, but before I started this show, I spent 26 years as a family and criminal court judge. Did you know that?
Yes.
Oh, you did. Well, the reason I mentioned that is because over the years, I dealt with hundreds of child protection cases, and your performance as the mother in Precious was so authentic, so realistic, especially the scene where the child welfare worker comes to your house. I just have to tell you, Monique, you really nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I want you to know that your movie Precious is played in law schools, social work faculties, family law programs for lawyers and judges all around the world. Did you know that?
I did not.
It's the truth.
Wow.
I want to ask you a sensitive question, if I may. How difficult was it for you to play such an abusive mother when you yourself were abused and violated and traumatized as a child by your own brother?
It allowed me to be that monster because I knew what that monster looked like. And that monster was my brother, right? But it also, Harvey, allowed me to heal at the same time. Because playing that character, it let me understand my brother's illness. Because when you don't understand it, you're just a monster. You are just a complete monster. No excuses, no nothing, and you should just go away forever. However, playing that character, right, it allowed me not to have resentment for him. It allowed me to forgive him. Now, do I ever want to see him again, Harvey? Hell no. But it took away that feeling of, oh no. And on top of that, because it was healing, Lee Daniels and I had so much fun with that character because he would say, how far can you go? And I would say, are you ready to jump off the cliff? Because so we both were challenging each other to see how far we could play. And that's what I did in that movie, Harvey. We played to bring those characters to life. And when he would say cut, we left those characters right there. Like when he said cut, Mary didn't go into my dressing room with me. She didn't come home with me. She didn't go to lunch with me. She stayed right there. And I remember first getting that script, right? And Lee says to me, oh my goodness, we'll get an award for this. This is crazy. And I said, Lee, if we save one life, that's the biggest award that we could ask for, right? Now we're at Sundance and they're screening the movie. When we come out to the lobby, Harvey, one of our Asian brothers comes up to me and says, I was Mary Jones. And I did that to my siblings. I said, well, listen, you need to call them and you have to own that. You have to own that because there's nothing I can do with you telling me, but I'm proud of you for saying it out loud. That was the award. That, so it was one of those movies that for me, she had to be real because people had to know that she was real. That woman was very real. So
was she ever? But I have to tell you, I couldn't stop thinking of the fact that you have 4 children of your own. You have grandchildren that you've treated with so much love and kindness. And you had to find a way to relate to the mother you were playing in Precious.
Yes. When I first got the script, my husband says to me, don't judge her, just be her. He said, don't judge that woman, just become her. And again, I was never trained, to be an actress. And I respect the people that go through all of that. However, for me, I know that I'm playing. I know that I'm playing. And I got to let the inside of my body know we're playing. We playing, baby, because your organs don't know that. If they feel like you're hurt and you're upset, it doesn't know that. So for me, I had to say to myself, I am playing. And the moment he says cut, she stays here, also with no judgment.
It's incredible self-discipline. And while I'm mentioning projects you've done that were very important to the justice system, I have to mention 2 other things. Your 2007 TV special, I Could Have Been Your Cellmate, which you filmed at a women's prison in Ohio, and a documentary you narrated that same year called Monique Behind Bars, which focused on the alarming increase in women being incarcerated in America. Bravo, Monique.
Thank you.
So appreciated. In 2014, 5 years after your performance in Precious, you played another emotionally disturbed mother in a movie called Blackbird, which was about a teenage boy struggling with his sexuality. That movie was released 2 years before Midnight, which also dealt with the coming of age of a young Black man who was gay. I want to commend you, Monique, for taking part in a movie that was very important, especially for young gay Black men who never, ever saw themselves reflected on screen. You helped make that happen.
I hung around a lot of guys from the gay community. And I didn't understand what it was preparing me for. But that community, Harvey, they accepted me, baby. They loved on me. They made me feel like I was everything, and when I came around, they would clap and they would cheer and they would say, all right, mother. And they called me mother. And that whole group that I hung out with, everybody left except for one. Everybody's gone. So whenever I do those projects, that is my love letter to the gay community, to the Black gay community, the white gay community, the Asian, the Spanish, because all of those babies go through it when a society says you're not worthy, you're not special enough, you're not good enough. So that project was just a love letter. And it was a love letter to the mothers that's wrapped up in religion and they can't see past the religion to love their baby. They can't see the specialness of their child. So that's what that movie was for me. And I hope somebody got it.
Oh, believe me, we all got it. Now, you portrayed the legendary blues singer Ma Rainey in the fabulous 2015 TV movie Bessie, starring Queen Latifah, about the great Bessie Smith. Now you were playing a real person. How did you prepare for that role?
I kept talking to Ma Rainey. I kept talking to her. And it was so funny, Harvey, because the sound guy, it was an older gentleman, right? And he came over to me one day and he says, I can hear you talking to her because your mic is not off. And I would say to her, give me your words. Give me your words. Give me your movement. Give me you so I can give that to them. That's how I prepared. I really did. I believe in that. I believe in spirits. I believe in, when you call on them, they answer. So I just said to her, please give me your words. And what an honor it was to play such an amazing woman who was not folding. She was unbreakable. She was unapologetic. She was everything that I needed to let me know, keep going.
And she came into your life long before you knew you would need that reinforcement. I think she's one of your guardian angels.
I do too, Harvey.
Now, I have to ask you about one of my favorite movies called Interwoven. It tells 15 true life stories from people struggling with love, loss, homelessness, alcoholism, betrayal, suicidal tendencies. The movie's so thought-provoking and life-altering because it really makes you contemplate what really matters in life. Was that one of your favorite projects, Monique?
All of them have been my favorite. There's not one project that outweighs the other because, again, I'm in a dream. Like, I'm dreaming. I am this little girl saying one day. So now to live in that one day, I think that I would be being ungrateful if I said just one, because the universe has blessed me with this. So all of them have been the best for me.
Well, that little girl that you just referred to ended up hosting her own late night talk show for 2 seasons. Every episode was a party. It was filled with positivity. You uplifted everyone on the show, including the audience. You celebrated artists that we didn't get to see anywhere else. How did that feel to be a talk show host?
Every night when that elevator door would open up, it was a party for me. It was this little girl saying, it's here, I'm here. It was this little girl saying, we made it. Every night I felt that way. And I remember one night my husband had to say to me, he said, Mama, you are the host. You're not the guest. You're not the band. You're not the audience. You are the host. He said, you want to be every position on this talk show, because I would be so excited. So for every episode, I felt like it was the first episode.
It felt that way to us. I have to say to my dear Sydney, who has been a pleasure to work with, I must tell you, I think that he understated you. You actually were the audience because you were us. We wanted to be there asking all those questions. We wanted to be at that party, sitting at home watching TV, and we got to do it vicariously through you. So you were us. Mm-hmm. And your ratings were through the roof. You were the #1 show on BET. You broke records, Monique. Why was the show not picked up for a 3rd season?
Harvey, we never got an answer to that. We never got an answer as to why the show went away. And here's what I tell people when they ask me. The woman that was responsible for the show going away, her name is Deborah Lee. And I don't want to assume anything. So she would be the one that has the answer as to why a highly rated show that was very successful would go away.
Well, I know you were trying to get President Obama on the show and he wouldn't do it. I tried to find out why. Did you ever find out why?
I think it was just scheduling. I think from my understanding, it was just scheduling with him. Mm-hmm.
His loss, baby.
Well, if he ever runs again, I'll have him back on the talk show.
Oh, well, traditionally, the world of late night talk shows has been almost exclusively dominated by men. Why do you think it's been so hard for women to break into that world?
Well, Harvey, that's a question that we ask, period. It's not just that world. It's just the world that we live in, And for me, going back to Ma Rainey, knowing Hattie McDaniel's story, knowing Louise Beaver's story, knowing Eartha Kitt's story, knowing those stories is what allows me to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Because as difficult as it is, as rewarding as it is, so it just makes me say, I got to keep pushing. I got to keep pushing, because for the little girl that's not here yet, she's depending on me as I depended on them.
Would you ever agree to host another talk show?
Yes.
Oh, that is so needed right now. We would love you. I want to take you back to March the 7th, 2010, the night you won your Oscar. In your acceptance speech, you said, I would like to thank the Academy for showing that it can be about the performance and not the politics. Monique, based on what you've experienced in the last 15 years since you won the Oscar, do you still feel your value as an artist in the eyes of the industry big shots is based on your talent versus politics?
For the ones that love to do great business, it's talent. For the ones that don't want to do the best business, it could be politics. So, because I don't want to make it seem like all of Hollywood is bad, because it is not. I've met some amazing people in Hollywood, and I've met some not so amazing people in Hollywood. However, when you know Hattie McDaniel's story, and Hattie McDaniel says, when I won it, I felt like I got cursed, because it's supposed to be the highest award in the world that you can win in acting. It's in the world. So when you win that award, why doesn't the paycheck come with it? So it's almost a feeling of, now that you've won this award, now I have to devalue you, because I don't want you to think that you're special and you should be paid fairly. Well, that's been going on, Harvey, since Hattie McDaniels.
And they call it the Oscar curse also because it's hard to get a job after. Now, you're well known and highly respected, Monique, because you've spoken out passionately about fairness and equality in the way that Black artists, and especially Black women, are treated in this business, especially financially, and also the working conditions. Have you seen any progress at all in the 15 years since you won the Oscar?
I want to make sure I treat this fairly. When I've worked on, and let me say this, yes, there has been progress. Let me say that. Yes, there has been progress. However, the progress just inches. It inches. Because when you do hear Taraji P. Henson say, our trailers were infested with bugs. Well, would we give a trailer like that to Demi Moore? Would we give a trailer like that to Reese Witherspoon? When you find out that our trailers blew up, literally blew up. Again, would we do that with our white counterparts? So it's inching, but we got so much further to go. Because when you do hear Viola Davis say, my resume is just like my white counterparts, but I don't make anywhere near the money that they make. So again, it's inching, and we have a lot further to go. And I do believe, Harvey, if we stuck together more, we could be more responsible for that push through.
Well, I happen to think if your white counterparts stuck together with you, that would be a big help.
Yes, yes. And you do have some sisters that's been allies. You do have some white sisters that said, no, we got to play it fairly. What I make, they make. It was Octavia Spencer, and I'm trying to remember the other actress's name. It was a white actress, and her name is leaving me right now. Now, this is where you know it's a little off. Octavia Spencer is the Oscar winner. She has the Oscar. The white actress does not have an Oscar, but the white actress had to fight for Octavia Spencer to make the same thing she was making. So, we still have to keep pushing, and be unapologetic for fighting for it.
Absolutely. I remember hearing you say in an interview, Monique, that Martin Lawrence gave you the best advice about show business when he said to you, listen, don't ever let them tell you what you can't have. Yes. How difficult or challenging has it been to follow that advice?
Sidney Poitier also said, it's not how many times you say yes, it's how many times you say no. So when I put those two things together, and I remember saying to my husband years ago, I know my worth. I know my worth. He said, then act like it. Then act like you know that. Because if they're coming and offering you this and you have the trophy, you're not nominated, you have the trophy. You now have to think about the sisters who don't have the trophy. So if you accept that and you have the trophy, what do you think they're going to get? So it's not difficult, Harvey, because I'm made for it, if that makes sense. I'm cut for it. It's like everybody's not cut to fight. And I say this humbly. Everybody's not cut to be a warrior or a fighter. Everybody's not built that way. As a little girl, I've always been, if it was wrong, I'm going to speak about it. If it's wrong, I'm going to say something. So I've always been that. And those no's mean that the little girl coming behind me, if it doesn't make sense, baby, it's okay to say no. And I can also say no because I'm happy, Harvey. And I'm in love with my family. I like baking. I'm baking cakes and baking healthy cookies. And I'm trying to learn how to make spaghetti. Like, so the noodles. So it's those things that give me my foundation, not to look at it as, oh my goodness, this is so hard. It's a part of it. But that's not my whole life where, oh, if it don't happen, I'm going to fall apart. Guess what? If it don't happen, I'm going to go make some chickpea cookies.
You see, I think that really, in a nutshell, explains not only your broad appeal to the public, but specifically gay men, because we see you as not only a supporter of the underdog, you always felt like an underdog. And so you have that voice, and you've always been known, Monique, for telling the truth and standing up for what's right. You do not mince words. You say exactly what you think. You speak truth to power. And you're working in a brutal industry that's full of politics and backstabbers and phonies and con artists. I'm just keeping it real here.
Yeah.
What's your secret to surviving in this business? That you are able to say to me, you're happy, you're enjoying your life.
Because I'm married to a king. You know, I am married to someone that makes my world wonderful, that makes my life complete and exciting and beautiful. And I made it my business, Harvey, to read the Black women of yesterday. I made it my business to read their stories. And they pretty much all have the same ending. They die in poor health. They die broke. They die lonely.
And underappreciated.
All of them across the board pretty much has the same story. And 100 years from now, if they find my story interesting, I don't want that little girl reading the same story. So to say, how did I deal with it and how? Because I have a life. I go to my grandchildren's baseball game and softball game, and I go to the choir at her school, and I have a life. I enjoy being a wife and a mother and a grandmother and a friend and a sister. I enjoy all those things. So if that thing is not popping, 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 guess what? My life is popping, 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 popping.
Well, I'm so gratified to hear you mention your wonderful husband, Sydney. I've seen him standing beside you publicly at interviews, press conferences, supporting you 100%. He has been instrumental in keeping you strong. No one will ever forget what you said about your husband in your Oscar acceptance speech. You said he showed you that sometimes you have to forgo doing what's popular in order to do what's right. You said that when you were at your lowest, he loved you like you were at your best. Those are very, very powerful words.
Yes.
Really, really powerful words. And I have to just give Sydney a shout out. We've interviewed hundreds of stars on this show, legends like yourself. Very few actually check out the show first and are selective about which interviews they're going to grant, which shows they're going to go on. Your husband does his homework. He protects you. He lives to protect you. And I love him for that.
Yes, so do I.
And I'll tell you, your ability to amalgamate Monique, the public persona, and Mrs. Sydney Hicks, the private woman, into one person makes you an absolute powerhouse. And I love that you have at least one person in your life, Sydney, that you can really trust, who really lives to protect you.
Sydney's been my best friend since 10th grade, right? And when we first got together, I've always known him as this gentle, kind, patient. He's always been this just very nice guy. And when we first got together, I didn't understand how to be his wife because I only knew how to be his best friend. I didn't understand yet how to be his wife because I was famous and I was Monique and I'm Nique Parker and I can do what I want and I can do it. And it took some years and a lot of very hard to hear conversations for me to understand my place as his wife.
Did he help you separate Monique, the public persona, the entertainer, the star?
Yes.
And Monique, the wife?
Yes. I remember one time, I would ask him, whatever it was, can you get me some water? Can you get me something to eat? Can you just, whatever it was, he was always like, yes, yes, yes. And one night he asked me, Harvey, could you get me some water? And I was like, no, I'm tired. Like what? Like the nerve of you to ask me to get you some water, right? And he says to me, so let me ask you a question. Do you think that it's okay for me to do for you and you not have to do for me? Well, Harvey, I was stuck because I didn't have the answer. And he said, listen, he said, I've loved you since the 10th grade. So your money and your fame and this house and all the material stuff, I loved you before any of that came into play. So now don't treat me like I'm loving you only because of this stuff. I had to go sit down by myself. And I was so grateful that I knew I had somebody that really loved me, that I knew I was safe. I knew I was protected. So that didn't happen right away. It took some time. And he says to me, maybe a year or so ago, he said, I had to be patient enough for you to see me.
That's love.
That's love.
That's real love, to make that commitment. And it's very rare, especially in an industry and especially for a couple that work together, that to keep the love there and to keep the relationship passionate when you're also business associates.
Yeah.
That's a special skill. Well, It's very well known, Monique, that you have been unfairly and wrongly accused of being difficult to work with, which has cost you to lose millions of dollars of income. For example, you were offered the role of Cookie on Empire, which was then taken away from you, correct?
Correct.
Lee Daniels also wanted you for The Butler, but Oprah took the role.
Yes.
So you and your family have paid a heavy price, all because you simply said that you should have the right to be paid for your work.
Yes. Yes.
Why do people have such a hard time understanding such a simple point?
We have a hard time understanding it based on where it's coming from. And oftentimes in society, whoever has the most money or the most power, we don't care what they've done. We will close our eyes, we will close our ears because we don't want you to take away our hero. And for me, it's very specific. It's very specific because when you have a person saying, Monique is difficult to work with, and that person is Tyler Perry. And I've never worked with Tyler Perry, Harvey. But once he said that, it put the nail in the coffin. Because to say that you're difficult in Hollywood is one thing. To say a Black woman is difficult in Hollywood, that is damn near death to your career.
And if it's coming from another Black person who happens to be an icon,
yes,
you're not
yes,
only in a coffin with the nail on it, you're buried. And
yes.
I did my homework, Miss Monique.
I know you did, Harvey.
Nobody in this industry has ever said you were difficult to work with who actually worked with you. I checked. So when you're being ganged up on and beaten down and thrown under the bus by industry legends, I would imagine you found out pretty quickly who your real friends were.
Very quickly.
Did any powerful entertainers speak out publicly to support you?
Not that I can recall, and I don't want to say a definite no. I don't want to give a definite no, but not that I can recall, not during the time, not while I was in the midst of it. Now, there's been some entertainers right now that I'm appreciative of. Jess Hilarious did an interview with Club Shay Shay, and she spoke what was true. I appreciate the ones that have encountered me, have experienced me. They know my character. They know what I'm like. They know how I get down. And for the ones, Harvey, that didn't speak, fear is real. Fear is so real, it will keep billionaires quiet. Fear is so real that it will allow another Black woman, watch a Black woman suffer over something that she actually agreed with us. Oprah Winfrey agreed with me and my husband when we said, we can't do it for free, and then you be quiet. So though they have all this money and all this stuff, fear is so real where I can't take away my God complex. So if I say I'm sorry, I'll look like I've made a mistake. And that I'm not willing to do. Do I think they'll ever do it, Harvey? I do.
I have a problem with people that quietly say to you privately, oh,
Yes.
I agree with you. I think what you're doing is right. I'm with you, but won't say anything publicly. To me, that's not a friend.
Make no mistake. I remember, and I'm going to tell you why I appreciate Barbara Walters, right? During campaign time, Barbara Walters would always interview the person that she thinks is going to win the award. And we did the interview and had a beautiful time. And within about 24 to 48 hours, a report came out that Barbara Walters never wants to talk to me again. I was very rude to her. Oh, it was just a mess. Barbara Walters came out immediately, Harvey, and said, I will not let y'all do that. It was a pleasure. It was an honor to sit and talk with that beautiful woman. So I respect that because she shut it down immediately. And that's a white woman. But that white woman just said, I'm going to play fair. Now you have a Black woman who damn near looks like me, Harvey. Okay, we favor somewhat. Who will be quiet and watch and sit back and watch. So the reason why I keep fighting, the reason why I keep saying it is because I want people to know, what do you have to fear? What is it that you have to fear? Because I will fight for my family, Harvey, until I have no more breath. Until I have no more breath, because what I want them to know, y'all were worth fighting for, baby, till I had no more. And I've instructed them to keep fighting. If I leave here and Tyler Perry don't fix it, y'all keep going, keep fighting.
Well, you shouldn't have to fight. I know that you've been terribly betrayed. You've talked a lot about it. I'm not going to ask you to repeat the story, but I do urge everyone watching to read Monique's open letter to Tyler Perry that she posted on Instagram. My question to you, Monique, do you think there's any possibility that your relationship with Oprah and Tyler can ever be repaired?
Yes.
There needs to be a conversation.
A conversation and accountability. And I'm so strong on that, Harvey, because I grew up in a household where there was no accountability taken. And it ripped our family apart because we weren't taught to take accountability. With Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry, take accountability. That's it. Show our community what it looks like to say, I'm human, I made a mistake. Let me apologize for this. For Tyler Perry, I'm human, I made a mistake. Let me apologize and let me fix what I've broken for this woman and her family financially.
And what about your family? They went on the Oprah show without even telling you beforehand. Can you ever forgive them?
Well, my mom and dad are no longer here. My brothers, I don't know if the word is forgive, because I wish them the best. I want no harm to come to these people whatsoever. However, it's just not good for them to be in my life. It's not good. It's very toxic for them to be in my life. So I just wish them well. I wish them the best this life has to give to them.
Now, a few years ago, after more than 15 years since Precious, you worked with Lee Daniels again in his movie, The Deliverance. I know that he publicly apologized to you. How did it feel to work with him again?
Just like we never stopped. It was because the conversation that we had, and when my brother says to me, I'm sorry for what I did to you and your family. I'm sorry for that. I just wanted to be a part of it so bad that I lost myself for a minute. I understand that. He's human. But to take accountability for it and say, let me apologize to you and your family. It was as if it did not happen. The moment he said action, we have a beautiful chemistry together. It was as if it never happened.
It was a great movie. Now, about a year ago, Monique, you did an amazing interview with Shannon Sharpe on his terrific show, Club Shay Shay. You said something that really stopped me in my tracks. You said, if I were a white woman, my name would be Melissa McCarthy. Tell me, what did you mean by that?
Well, when you look at our resumes, Melissa McCarthy had a 5-year sitcom. Monique had a 5-year sitcom. Melissa McCarthy went on to do all of these movies. Monique did a few movies. When you look at the resume, it's like, what is the difference between these two women? The complexion of our skin. I've received several awards for being the funniest in a sitcom, best female actress. So, when you look at those things and you say, guys, what's different? Just the color of our skin. That's all. But it didn't just start with me. That goes all the way back. Well, you're like, well, what's different? Just the color of the skin. That's all.
I think what's different is that the opportunities for Black women are not the same.
Yeah. That's it. And I think the more we keep saying it out loud, the more we keep saying it, and all of us have to say it, not just our white women counterparts, but our Black men counterparts, our white men counterparts. We got to come to the table together and say, listen, pay everybody fairly because you'll get the best performances you ever got. So if everybody became allies, how special would that be?
Amen. Well, Mo, when I look at what you've been through over the years, being betrayed and ripped off financially to the tunes of millions of dollars, I mean, look at how little you were paid for the Parkers. And look at the disrespect you had to endure when you did the Queens of Comedy tour. When I look at all of that, I can't imagine how offensive it is when you hear somebody say, oh, Monique is just another angry, bitter Black woman. What's your answer to people who say that?
You know what I say? I'm built for it. Because they said Hattie McDaniel was an angry Black woman. They said Eartha Kitt was an angry Black woman. Anytime you say this is not right, we become angry Black women. Now, here is where it becomes disheartening. When other Black women say that's an angry Black woman, that's where it can be disheartening because we are fighting for all of us. We're fighting for all of us. So I understand why they say it. We've been taught to say it. We've not been taught anything else. You're going against the system, you're an angry Black woman. It's easy. It's easy to say, oh, it's her husband. It's easy to say it without hearing it all the way through. It's easy to go to, I just don't like it. I'm just going to say this without saying, let me get out of my emotions. Let me deal with the facts. Let me deal with logic. And then let me decide. Well, oftentimes in our society, we just go straight to emotion.
That's because people listen with their triggers, not with their ears.
Yes.
I learned that as a judge. Well, Mo, there's something really cool that I've noticed about you over the years. When I look at the special appearances you've made on TV, you appeared on shows that paid tribute to legendary stars like Lou Rawls, Quincy Jones, Patti LaBelle, Chaka Khan, just to name a few. You paid tribute to Hattie McDaniel in your Oscar acceptance speech and in this interview. You're one of those stars who's always ready and willing to pay tribute to the great icons in the entertainment world. I think that makes you really very, very special.
Oh, thank you, Harvey. I've been around some of the greatest entertainers ever. And I remember I was invited to hang out with Asher and Simpson, right? And they said to me, Mo, when we were coming up, when one of us hit, all of us hit. When one of us ate, everybody ate. So to hear that from those legends and those icons, and to read the stories of those women from yesterday, they've taught me great lessons. Patti LaBelle taught me how to hug, Harvey. That woman taught me how to hug just from hugging me. And I remember that night going home, I said, oh my goodness, when I become famous, I want to hug like that. Because that hug made me feel like I was important, I was special, I mattered. And I'm 17 years old being hugged from this woman. So now at 57, people say, Monique, you give the best hugs. And it's like, well, thank Patti LaBelle, because she taught me how to do it.
I wish I could give you a big hug right now because I want you to feel loved.
I do.
Well, I mentioned Hattie McDaniel. At one point, you owned the rights to her life story, didn't you? Are you going to portray her in a movie or a miniseries?
Well, I'm going to keep talking to Hattie about it. I'm going to keep talking to her because there was conversations and she said, my story has been told 1,000,000 times. They just put a different face to me. The Black woman's story in Hollywood, we keep telling it over and over and over again. So do we keep telling the same story or do we tell a different story? I think it's important that people see what that woman had to deal with because you'll have a different appreciation of her. She went through it with the white community. She went through it with the Black community. She went through it with her family. Like this woman, it was a struggle all the way up to the day she died.
She went through it with the media. She went through it with the money people. She went through it with the public.
Yes.
She had to explain why she played a maid. And she had to say, because I'd rather play a maid than be one.
Yes.
There's a story there that you are the perfect person to play her. Do you still own the rights to her life story?
No. What I'm going to tell you, Harvey, this is what happens. When you get blackballed and you get lied on, financially, you take a hit. And the reason why I keep speaking about Tyler Perry, because Tyler Perry affected families. Families got affected with your lie. We had a staff. Eventually, we had to let people go because financially, we're taking a hit. That's why I won't stop. I don't think people understand the magnitude of what a lie has done. And then you have a man that says, I did lie on you. I did that to you. Then you're going to have to fix that, sir.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. That's got to be fixed. I mentioned in my introduction, Mo, that you've won 5 NAACP Image Awards, but I should add that so far you've received 9 nominations for that award. I would think that in some way, in your heart and your soul, those Image Awards are maybe even more important to you than the Oscar. Does that make sense?
Yes. And you're right on the button. Yes. People would ask me, Harvey, and I'm not sure what answer they were looking for, because they would say, when you won the Oscar, what went through your mind? I'm grateful for every award I've ever won. For anybody that ever thought to say, we think you're the best at this. I'm grateful for that. However, when I'm growing up and I see the Oscars, no one looks like me. No one looks like me that got that award. But that Image Award, everybody looked like me. And it was my community saying, we think you're the best at it. So I was so honored and proud the first time. Every time they called my name and said, and the Image Award goes to, and it was like, oh, what an honor. Again, I appreciate every award. But when it comes from your people, when it comes from your community, and they say, we hold you here because we think you're the best at doing what you do. Hands down, it's the best.
Well, I think in your case, it goes beyond that. Normally, an NAACP Image Award really relates to your work on the screen. In your case, that Image Award, to me, is also about your life, your public image as an artist and as a human being, as a role model. That's why I said that I think if I were you, I would find it even more important than the Oscar, because it's for work on screen and for what you do and say off screen. Well, after reading your book, Skinny Women Are Evil, I learned that when you were growing up, you were not given a lot of encouragement to believe in your dream, that you were going to become a huge success. And you've talked openly, Mo, about the many obstacles you had to overcome to achieve that success. I hope you know that your millions of fans, men, women, gay, straight, black, white, Asian, we're so inspired by your self-esteem, your passion for doing and saying what's right, your resilience. Do you get that? Do you know that deep down?
I will answer that question as humbly as I can. I leave that up to people. I don't look in the mirror and say, do you know who you are? Do you know how you inspire? I look in the mirror and say, I'm grateful that you chose me. I'm grateful that you trusted me. I'm grateful that you took this little fat black girl out of Baltimore and said, we'll give it to you. We'll let you go and live out your dreams. So never do I look in the mirror and say, look what I can do. I always just say, I'm so grateful you chose me.
I think Sydney had a little something to do with that.
All of it.
Well, Monique, I remember that at the end of your talk show, you used to tell us to wrap our arms around ourselves and squeeze real tight. So we've all just been hugged. And that's what I wish I could do to you, to give you a great big hug right now.
Thank you, Harvey.
Thank you for sharing your many gifts and your abundant spirit with us. Thank you for all those beautiful performances. And you are only 57, so we're going to have thousands more. Thank you for your principled approach to fairness and equality and justice, for being a walking image award. And thank you for taking the time to appear on our show.
Thank you for having me, Brother Harvey. This was absolute pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine. Our guest has been the legendary and spectacular Monique. You can follow her on every social media platform. Don't forget to subscribe to her YouTube channel, Monique Worldwide, which is now showing on your screen. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time. Thank you to my producers, Steve Silver, my managers, Rick Marcelli and Robin Bragg Marcelli of the Marcelli Company in Hollywood, my director of programming, Robert Monaghan, my editor, Isaiah Sharalampidis, and my entire team at the XPTV1 network in the UK.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all the great interviews on the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted.